Can you imagine pouring every single part of yourself into someone, building a future, sacrificing your time, your money, your self-respect, only for them to look you in the eye after you catch them with another man and say, "You just don't trust me because you used to be ugly"? That was just the first domino. You won't believe the calculated malice that followed and how it utterly obliterated my entire life. Growing up, I was always the ugly kid. And I'm not talking about baby fat or an awkward phase. This was deep-seated physical stuff. Think ugly duckling, but without the elegant swan ending, at least not for a long, long time. I had this ridiculous overbite, wrinkles that made me look prematurely old, teeth that just refused to grow back in the right places, and dark, perpetual raccoon eyes. My weight was a constant battle, something that felt utterly beyond my control, no matter what I tried. It wasn't just physical. It burrowed into my soul, leaving me riddled with insecurities. So you can imagine what it felt like when, at 30 years old, I finally had my first kiss. It was with Lucia, and honestly it felt like a miracle. I still remember the first time I saw her. She was this absolute ray of sunshine, vibrant, beautiful, everything I wasn't. And yeah, I caught that flicker in her eye, that moment of "he's so ugly but I can't stop staring" because it's an experience. But here's the thing. She treated me like I was normal, like my appearance didn't matter. And for someone like me who'd been defined by his looks his whole life, that was everything. She even told me I was her first for everything too. Every milestone, every tender moment, just clicked. We truly felt like a match made in heaven. I was completely smitten, completely invested. I wanted to provide. So I insisted on paying for our entire wedding. I wanted to take care of her, really. I told her she could cut her work hours by half, that I'd send her money to make up for the lost income. She was all for it, of course. Her friends and family absolutely adored me, which looking back was probably just part of the act. Then came that night. We were at her place just chilling with her friend Naomi. I was playing bartender, mixing up Aperol spritzes, Lucia's absolute favorite. They were definitely getting buzzed. Me? I stayed sober as usual. Someone had to be clear-headed, right? To make sure everyone got home safe, to take care of Lucia if she had too much. That was just me. We were laughing, talking about everything and nothing. Eventually, the conversation drifted to godparents, for when we had kids. Naomi, all bubbly and a little tipsy, promised she'd do anything for our future child. She seemed like the perfect choice. A real friend. And then she said it. Just like that. Naomi, slurring a little, looked at me and said, "Plus, Mike, you work so hard. You need to have a parental safety net." My blood ran cold. Nausea twisted in my stomach. Mike? My name isn't Mike. My name has never been Mike. For a second, I tried to brush it off. She was drunk, right? I could smell the Aperol on her breath. I was literally about to make a joke about how hammered she was when Lucia chimed in. She looked at me, her eyes a little hazy, and said, "You have a huge operation coming up. It must be so stressful being a surgeon." Surgeon? My eyebrows practically jumped off my face. I'm a lawyer. A lawyer. Not a surgeon. I slowly turned to Lucia. She pulled her lips back into this smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her face was completely still, like a mask. Every single alarm bell in my body was screaming. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a drunken slip. A heavy silence descended. Then Naomi suddenly dramatically scrambled to the bathroom. To throw up, she implied. But there were no sounds of retching. Just the distinct, rhythmic tap-tap-tap of someone scrolling through TikTok. Oh, the dramatics. Even in that moment, a part of me recognized the cheap act. I stood there, trying to process, trying to not jump to the worst conclusion. I desperately wanted an explanation. "Lucia," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Who is Mike?" She sighed, a dramatic, put-upon sigh, like I was the problem. "He's Naomi's boyfriend," she huffed. "Why does everything always have to be a fight between us?" A fight? We never fought. Because I always let her have her way. Her immediate defensiveness was a flashing red light. It wasn't about fighting. It was about hiding something. Something big. I buried my face in my hands. I didn't want to see it, didn't want to hear it. But then she launched it. That sentence. That vicious sentence. "You just don't trust me because you used to be ugly, and now you think the whole world is out to get you." Didn't show it? Inside, it tore me apart. That old wound, that deep insecurity I'd carried my whole life, she just ripped it wide open. Then, with an exaggerated sigh, she shoved her phone into my hand. See? Look through it, she challenged. I scrolled through the obvious places. Instagram DMs, Snapchat, iMessage. Nothing. Clean. For a fleeting second, I actually felt a wave of relief. But then, I saw it. An icon. It looked like a calculator app. Harmless, right? My gut screamed otherwise. I tapped it. And just as I suspected, another password barrier popped up. This time she didn't offer to unlock it. Not a chance. Instead, her face crumpled. The tears started to flow, a sudden dramatic sob. But I didn't feel a thing for her. Not sympathy, not pity. As I watched her, all I saw were hundreds of dollars worth of makeup streaking down her face, a gleaming Cartier watch on her wrist, and the sparkle of that Tiffany diamond ring on her finger. Every single expensive piece of it. All paid for by me. Pure, unadulterated disgust churned inside me. When Naomi finally emerged from her fake bathroom emergency, I just looked at Lucia. My voice was flat, empty. Leave, I said. Go with her. They left. And the second that door clicked shut, I completely, utterly broke down. The dam burst. I was a sobbing, shaking mess on the floor. Every memory, every sacrifice, every penny I'd invested, it all came crashing down. I thought about the thousands I'd paid off from her credit card debt, erasing her financial burdens. The countless hours I spent driving her to and from work every single day, even if it meant I was late for my own job. The friends I'd slowly cut out of my life because she didn't feel comfortable around them. All of it. All of me. Gone. Just so she could rip it all to shreds. That gut-wrenching anger, that burning betrayal, it propelled me. I practically flew into an Uber, demanding he take me to Naomi's house. Lucia opened the door. Before I could even speak, she started. Why are you always trying to start something? I effing hate you. I cut her off. You think another man is going to want you now? You think that little guy on your phone is going to provide for you? You're 30, Lucia. The best years of your life are over. She actually laughed. A cold, dismissive sound. And then she delivered the final blow, the one that gutted me. Oh, and you think any woman will want you? Every time you touched me, I had to close my eyes and picture someone else. That was it. That was the absolute end. I didn't even respond. I just turned away, numb, and waited for my Uber to pull up. I couldn't bear to look at her for another second. I stumbled back into my empty apartment. The whole night I just lay there, clutching my pillow, the tears streaming down my face until my head throbbed, a dull, relentless ache. I felt utterly broken. The next morning, I woke to the relentless buzzing of my phone. It was my mom. I ignored it. I couldn't talk to anyone, not yet. But the buzzing didn't stop. It wasn't just Mom. It was Dad, Lucia, even Naomi. Dozens of missed calls. Lucia had wasted no time. She told everyone I was abusive, that I'd just abandoned her. I watched horrified as the missed call count kept climbing. Even my cousins, people I hadn't spoken to in ages, were calling. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the deluge of text messages. Mom's messages started gently enough, concerned. Are you okay? Then, why aren't you answering? But they quickly spiraled, becoming frantic, then accusatory. What have you done to that poor girl? She demanded. My stomach churned. Lucia had called them in the middle of the night, sobbing, barely able to speak through her tears. She had orchestrated this perfectly. I stumbled to my laptop, my fingers fumbling on the keys. Facebook. The first thing I saw sent a jolt of ice through my veins. Lucia had changed her relationship status to single. And then below it, a lengthy, venomous post. She spun a tale of years of emotional manipulation, jealousy, control. She claimed I'd monitored her every move, isolated her from her friends, flown into rages over innocent interactions with male coworkers. It was all a lie, a carefully constructed fiction, but the comments were already flooding in. People I'd known for years were calling me a monster. My aunt chimed in, saying she always suspected something was off about me. Even former coworkers, people I'd barely spoken to, were sharing vague stories about how possessive I seemed at company events. Each comment piled on, building this monstrous narrative, this stranger that they were all convinced was me. Then my work phone started buzzing. On a Sunday morning. My boss never called on weekends. Never. Unless it was something catastrophically wrong. I let it go to voicemail, a cold dread settling in my gut. I already knew. Our law firm prided itself on its impeccable reputation. A social media scandal involving domestic abuse allegations? They wouldn't just tolerate it. They'd stamp it out. Frantically, I clawed for anything, any proof, a scrap of evidence. I checked my own phone's sent messages, desperate to find what I actually said to Lucia. My heart stopped, just utterly seized in my chest. There were texts I had absolutely no memory of sending. Angry, rambling messages. Sent long after I'd collapsed, crying into my pillow. The words, they were my words, yes. But twisted. Taken completely out of context. "You'll pay for this betrayal," one read. Another. "I won't let you destroy everything I've built." But I was home. I was right here. How could I have sent these? With my current expenses, I was staring down bankruptcy in maybe 2 months. Less if I had to hire an attorney to fight a restraining order, another potential blow. The very financial control I'd allegedly wielded over Lucia had now become my own prison. Tuesday morning brought a fresh wave of humiliation. My landlord called, all concerned politeness, about the situation. Other tenants had seen the news coverage, Lucia's lies, and felt uncomfortable. He couldn't legally evict me, he said, but for everyone's sake, perhaps I should find alternative housing. The apartment that had been my sanctuary, the place I'd built a life with Lucia, was now a hostile zone. Neighbors who used to nod and smile in the hallway now actively avoided my gaze. The building's online community even had a thread debating if management should take action against me. I started looking for new apartments, of course, but every single application demanded employment verification, references. With my job suspended, my reputation utterly obliterated, who would even consider me? The housing websites, with their endless forms for stable income and good character references, felt like they were actively mocking me. Even my car insurance company called. They'd received notice of the restraining order, something I hadn't even been served with yet, and needed to update their records. My rates would skyrocket, the agent explained, due to the high-risk behavior associated with domestic violence allegations. It wasn't just my job, my home, my reputation. Even my ability to drive, my basic mobility, was being systematically, maliciously compromised. Wednesday. A process server at my door. Another piece of my life snatched away. Lucia was filing a civil suit. Damages for emotional distress. Lost wages from feeling unsafe at work. Therapy costs. The lawsuit painted a picture of a pattern of abuse dating back years, fabricating specific incidents that, with each telling, grew more elaborate, more twisted. The documents included affidavits from witnesses, people I had never met. They claimed to have seen me following Lucia, watching her apartment, making her uncomfortable in public. The dates they listed, they coincided perfectly with times I was working late, or home alone, literally crying into a pillow. But how do you prove you weren't somewhere? How do you prove a negative? Proving my innocence required evidence I'd never thought, never dreamed, I'd need to collect. My attorney reviewed the civil suit, and his face told me everything. More bad news. Fighting this would cost tens of thousands of dollars. Money I absolutely did not have. Even if, by some miracle, I won, the legal fees alone would bankrupt me. His advice: negotiate a settlement. Essentially, pay Lucia off to drop the suit. Legal extortion. Completely, maddeningly above board. Then the therapist my parents had hired called. She framed it as an opportunity for growth and healing. I agreed. Not because I believed for a second I needed treatment, but because refusing would mean losing my family too. That was the ultimate pressure. The appointment was set for Thursday. That night, sleep was a distant dream. I made the mistake of diving down the rabbit hole, searching online for false abuse allegations. The internet offered absolutely zero comfort. Forum after forum was filled with horrifying stories of men whose lives had been utterly destroyed by fabricated accusations. Some eventually proved their innocence, but only after years of brutal legal battles and complete financial ruin. The most chilling discovery? How incredibly rare successful defenses actually were. The very system designed to protect genuine victims it seemed, had terrifyingly few safeguards against manipulation. The presumption of belief for accusers meant I was starting from a position of guilt. Any evidence of my innocence would be viewed with suspicion, while Lucia's fabricated evidence of my guilt would be readily accepted. I was drowning. Thursday afternoon, I walked into a sterile, impersonal office building for my therapy session. The therapist maintained a clinical, professional distance, pushing intake paperwork across the desk. Questions. History of violence? None. Substance abuse? None. Previous relationships? Limited. Pages and pages of my life reduced to checkboxes. She explained the program. Weekly individual sessions, bi-weekly group sessions with other perpetrators. The word itself felt like a brand. And homework, focused on accountability. The cost? $300 a session. Not covered by insurance. Another bleeding wound in my already hemorrhaging finances. The first session felt like an interrogation. My entire childhood, every normal frustration was dissected, looking for hidden abusive tendencies. My academic focus, once a point of pride, was reframed as a need for control. My lack of romantic relationships before Lucia? Proof of social dysfunction. I played along. I had to. I gave her the answers I knew she wanted, admitting to jealousy I'd never felt, acknowledging control issues that simply didn't exist. Each false confession was a betrayal of myself, a surrender. But the alternative? Complete, utter isolation. I couldn't bear that. After the session, I sat in my car in the cold, echoing parking garage, feeling completely hollowed out. The therapist had given me homework. Write a letter to Lucia, acknowledging the harm I'd caused. Not to send it, just to write it. An exercise, she said, to process my actions. But all it felt like was being forced to draft my own conviction. My own guilty verdict. Friday. The final blow. The meeting with HR. They'd completed their investigation. They'd reached a decision. The firm, they explained, couldn't risk the reputational damage of keeping someone accused of domestic violence on staff. They offered a severance package. With conditions, of course. I had to resign voluntarily, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and waive any right to legal action. 2 months' salary. Enough to prolong the inevitable a little, but certainly not enough to mount any kind of meaningful legal defense. If I refused, I'd be fired for cause, lose even that meager severance, and have termination for misconduct, permanently staining my record. It wasn't a choice. It was another impossible decision in a terrifying cascade of them. I signed the papers. My hand felt alien, disconnected. 10 years. 10 years of grinding, of building a career, professional relationships, a legal practice I was proud of. All of it, erased with one trembling signature. The HR rep maintained her professional sympathy, while making sure I understood the terms. My company email? Deleted right there in front of me. The security guard, the one I'd nodded to for years, escorted me out one final time. Former colleagues averted their eyes, pretending not to see me pass. That elevator ride down to the parking garage. It felt like descending into a bottomless pit. Each floor number that flashed by was a stark reminder of cases I'd won, victories I'd achieved, a life I'd painstakingly built that now, quite simply, no longer existed. That was 9 months ago. Just this morning she was standing outside my apartment, tears streaming down her face. And I just stared. Because after everything, after she systematically demolished every single aspect of my life, I couldn't feel anything but an empty echo where my heart used to be. My career, my home, my reputation, my sense of self. All of it gone. Destroyed by a lie, a betrayal, and a system that offered no defense. I lost everything not because of what I did, but because of what someone said I did.